All right. What's good, everyone, and welcome to our closing session. I'm your moderator. My name is Niyah Nel, and I'm a creative producer based out of the Hampton Roads area. I'm also known in the 757 as the founder and CEO of Everyday Dope Life. We put on our annual EDL Hip Hop Festival in the 757 to lift and highlight the unique sound, artistry, and creativity that stems out of Virginia. The creativity that derives from Virginia is carried by Black culture, and Black culture is rooted in our traditions and in the way we as a community express ourselves. So, as a culture, we need to come together and discuss how cannabis legislation impacts our communities. This is why today I'm opening the conversation between multi platinum singer songwriter Shelley, formerly known as DRAM, and Marijuana Justice Policy Director Sasha Spruell about how weed drives and heals the culture and what that means for Black survivors of our failed war on drugs. I'm excited to sit, listen, and learn from Virginia's Sasha Spruell and the one and only Shelley, formerly known as DRAM. So let's introduce Shelley. Shelley, formerly known as DRAM, born Shelley Marchand Massenberg Smith in Germany. Shelley, formerly known as DRAM, is a multifaceted musician. His mom was in the military, but before the age of 1, he moved to the United States and was raised in Hampton, Virginia, also known as the 757. In 2014, Shelley released his debut mixtape, One Epic Summer. It featured the single Cha Cha, a club-worthy cut that was his regional hit. In 2015, he broke on a national scale when Cleveland R&B radio station Z107.9 FM began playing the cut as their weekend warmer, and the campaign eventually reached Beyonce, who shared the video of her own version of the track. Over the years, Shelley has worked with a variety of artists, including Lil Yachty, Erykah Badu, Young Thug, A$AP Rocky, and Her, just to name a few. After he dropped the DRAM in favor of his birth name, he released a semi-eponymous album, Shelley, formerly known as DRAM, in April 2021. We also have Sasha Spruell on the panel. Sasha Spruell is a policy director of Marijuana Justice, and she works to repair the damages inflicted by Virginia's war on drugs by advocating for equitable cannabis legislation that centers Black communities and other marginalized populations disproportionately targeted in policy. Her racial justice lens helps inform the policy framework for equitable cannabis legislation. She received her bachelor's of political science from VCU and her master's of public administration from the University of Texas, Arlington. Today, she is immersed in her activism because she believes in dismantling systems of oppression that cause trauma to Black families and intends to provide a pathway for healing Black futures through equitable cannabis legislation. All right. Hello, guys.
Hello there.
How are we doing?
Hi, Shelley.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
So let's get into it. First, I'd like to offer space for both of you to talk about your individual involvement in culture, cannabis, and policy. So what are we working on right now? I guess, Shelley, we'll start with you.
Well, as a matter of fact, my brand that I have is called Big Baby's Bakery. We have merch, and we're also diving into throwing events, fundraisers, and things of that nature. As a matter of fact, on December the 18th, we're throwing our first show. It's called a Rated R Christmas. I'll be there, Duke Deuce, others like Leo Bricks. It's going to be a very, very fire affair, you know what I'm saying, at the Addicts Theater. But what I'm trying to do is infuse all of the aspects of everything, cannabis, music, lifestyle, all into one big thing. But Big Baby's Bakery is just, the name that leads the way for it.
All right, that's wonderful.
That's really dope.
And it's at the Addicts Theater. I don't know if I mentioned that.
You did. You also mentioned Leo Bricks, who was another 757
Yes,
artist.
sir.
Leo we loved it.
Leo
and
Bricks.
This is a 757 Love Fest, so I'm so happy to be here with y'all representing the 757. I am, like Niyah mentioned, a policy director for Marijuana Justice. We put on this conference, this 3-day conference, to really inform people about all things cannabis and what's going on with the legislation, what's going on with commercialization, but also what's going on with racial justice cannabis with a racial justice lens and an equity lens. So my work here and my involvement with weed and marijuana in general is I'm working to free our people that are still on the inside. I'm working to make sure that we get reparations for the things that we've endured, the harms that we have endured during the war on drugs and the prohibition on marijuana. And I'm also here for the culture. I'm really excited for this panel. I'm so excited that we get to bring ourselves to these conversations because, we tend to be shut out of these important conversations about policy. And it's really important when it comes to marijuana that we don't get shut out of these conversations. So I think this is a really dope and important conversation that we're having, and I'm so excited for it.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. Sasha, I feel like you kind of touched on it, but so I'll kind of direct this to you, Shelley. What is your interest in the work with weed and cannabis and weed policy and such?
Well, as Virginia, it's, damn, like, it still feel like I got to pinch myself sometimes. But, it's just the fact that, we as a state are even diving into this, it's fire, and I need parts. I mean, I'm a victim of the system. I was racially profiled years ago. I'm not able to even get in like Canada, New Zealand, or Australia if I'm not paid to sing or dance. I can't go there for my leisure just for some. I'm talking about residue. I wanted to keep it away from my parents. I was fairly young. I had a little job. I can take it. They got a public defender. She just, instead of just saying, son, like they can't do nothing with you, she just put fear of God in me, said, yo, just take this plea, and got a possession of paraphernalia. It's been hovering over my head ever since. I never let that deter me. I lived in LA, back and forth. I just know the different levels of comfortability that other places have with marijuana, and I'm now educating myself on what I can get from it, being a victim of it, now being in a level of somewhat of prominence, to where I can make something happen with this. You know what I'm saying? I need parts. That's all I'm saying, basically. You know what I'm saying? I was a victim, and now I need parts, and I feel as though
I love that you're in the car right now doing what you're doing in the middle of this conversation. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Moments. Sasha, so we explained where you are right now with weed policy and what you do, but what sparked your interest?
My interest is my people. I've always, for a very long time, I have been doing work for and with Black people. And throughout this journey, learning how important it is to, like I said before, bring our full selves and our culture to this conversation. Because a lot of times, like I said, we are shut out of these conversations. And I, with a background in policy and politics, am in a lot of rooms that the people that I was raised with, the places where I come from, are not in those spaces. So me being in those rooms, my efforts are really to lift their voices. And I think with like weed legislation, all things that are going on with cannabis, all I'm doing is the work that for the people that I love. Essentially, it goes hand in hand. I have loved ones who have been convicted, charged on the inside, so these things, it just touches near and dear to me. And I think it's my responsibility with the work that I'm doing to make sure that their voices are lifted. And that's really where my interest comes from.
Absolutely. Okay. So Shelley, going back to you, can you describe the impact that you feel weed has on Black culture?
Yes, man. Weed changed my life, for real. I ain't gonna hold you. Started smoking when I was like 16, about to be 17, whatever. And what turned into something like sneaking around and making sure I'm neat and a little spray and this, that, and the third as I grew up. And it's just known. I smoked weed or whatever. It's a harmless thing, but it always put me in the mode, let alone just made it inspired me to even speak on it musically in a way to where it kind of paid back. It ain't one dispensary I walked in and niggas be like, hey, off the strength of music alone and just tying it into each other. I mean, I made Cha Cha high as hell. I heard the beat like highlight to Cha Cha. We laughing. I'm just getting blowed. You know what I'm saying? And that's how that came about. So weed is very, very instrumental to just how I move around. Not saying that it defines me, but it definitely enhance my situation just overall. I ain't gonna hold you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Sasha?
I mean, I agree 100%. And I think with people in our culture, a lot of people believe that weed is a form of medicine. There's healing properties to it. It's utilized in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons. Some people use it for pain relief. Some people use it just for creativity purposes. And I definitely think weed has driven, like Shelley mentioned, a lot of our creativity, a lot of our artists, a lot of the music, the sounds, the paintings. It's an inspiration. For a lot of people. And I love that now we're in a place where we can talk about it as legalized, as being destigmatized as well. And I think like our culture, our people, Black people, if there's any confusion about what the culture we're talking about, I think Black people have played an important role in destigmatizing, weed. And also that's because we've been getting in front of the narrative and saying like, this is the good that is happening because of it, and all of the policing, all of the harsh penalties and targeted practices that we experiences that made the downfall of weed and like hurting our community. But it doesn't stem from that place. Those negative things have come from us, the war on drugs. So like I said, I think weed has a lot of healing properties, and our culture does a really good job of highlighting that. And like Shelley mentioned, like, Cha Cha was a great song. I'm glad he had weed.
Cha Cha was a great song. I have the funniest story with you, Shelley, from 2014 when I worked at WODU when Cha Cha first popped off the record conversation. But speaking to that, how does it play a part in your creative process?
Like I said, it doesn't define the process, but it enhances, like, subconsciously, like, or being direct as possible and speaking on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's always there. Like when I wake up, I sleep. Like so much of my music is reflected off of my everyday life, and in my everyday life, I'm smoking. You know what I mean? Like respectfully, and damn, it's like if I'm in the studio and they say, yeah, you got to go out the door around the corner out in the cold blistering dead of autumn, just to smoke. Like that's not, I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like I just like to smoke in the process of everything. So it's just, I feel like it just goes hand in hand. It's just, I think I'm kind of synonymous with weed. You think of me and weed and the same. I don't know. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, we actually have someone asking, what type of roll-up are you using, Shelley?
What am I, what?
What roll-up are you using right now?
Backwood, sweet and aromatic. I'm back. I'm back home. Keep it classic, keep it neat.
To what you know. Okay, Sasha, I want to ask you a question. Why is it important that our culture, is not shut out of conversations about cannabis legislation, especially now?
Yeah, I mean, so the policy is affecting the culture. We talked about the war on drugs. We talked about all the ways that Black people are being criminalized for marijuana. But what we don't always talk about is how the culture also impacts the policy, which is why we need to continue to have these conversations, and we need to have it on our terms and in our way so that they're accessible to people without policy background, so that there's enough space for us. Because Black people, we have our own culture and we have our own indigenous roots in the United States and across the diaspora. And it's such a powerful influence, and I think this stems from, I think culture is a great way to preserve our way of life. and which is why Black people still have this strong influence and ties to our lineage, our heritage, our ancestors. And I think when you bring culture to these conversations, you're preserving us. And that is really important to have that our way of life and who we are in this policy, especially when we're talking about weed, something that Black people have really pushed in our community, something that has impacted and touched us so much. We cannot be shut out of this. And I think being in front of our narrative and saying we are doing this as who we are is so important. Is you can't be stopped that way. And that's why I think when we have these conversations, it's also important to say we need to have it in our own terms so that it's not co-opted by anyone else, because it is about us. Like we need to be centered in all things cannabis, and no one else should be the focus, you know? So that's what I feel. What you think, Shelley?
I agree. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And you know, Big Baby's Bakery, from us to y'all, like we got our ears to this shit every step of the way, because you know I feel like it's only right, you know, and we want to give back as well. So that's what I feel like the importance is for having these conversations. I didn't even know that, you know, we got folks from the home team even in these positions. So that's fire. You know, I didn't know who I was gonna even tap into. So it's very, very it's a warming kind of feeling to see your face.
Absolutely. If you
I
read
love
the
being in this space with you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This
biggest
is
biggest cannabis conference on this side of the water, right?
All
Start
right.
control the narrative.
exactly.
All right. So the war on drugs is and always has been a method to criminalize Black people into the legacy market. Legacy market is our official term, and we've seen that the war on the legacy market is a war on the Black communities. This enforcement has been intentionally detrimental to Black communities, as we are disproportionately targeted by policies, arrested and exploited for fines, and convicted for marijuana. All right, so Shelley, are there any musical lyrics or cultural moments related to the war on drugs that are burned into your memory?
Not at hand. I mean, you know, one of the drawbacks is short term, like, you know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
I really don't have a lyric on hand about it. I just feel like that it's more comprehensible than words can even say. The actions of it. I'm a victim of it. So many people I know are victims of it. So we don't need to hear it in a lyric for us to experience it and feel it. Maybe
Uh-oh. I think we lost him for a second.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we can get him back up.
The wonderful world of technology. We'll get him back.
We will definitely get him back. And in the meantime, as we're working on getting Shelley back, I want to touch on the question that Niyah asked Shelley about the legacy market. And essentially, the legacy market is the first market that weed was distributed by. And it's also known as the informal market. And this market operated without any special branding, because of because of the prohibition of marijuana. It didn't have that branding, that ability to brand and also market itself the way that the commercial market in states that are already starting commercialization has that opportunity to market and brand. So the culture itself has played such a big role in that marketing, and you know the market definitely relied on the culture. So I'm really interested to see and talk to Shelley more about some of the ways that he has seen our culture influence the legacy market, the informal market. And so let me check in and see if we are getting him back on.
There we go.
My phone overheated. You know what? iPhone, they fuck me up every time a new one come out.
They mess with it.
They throw my shit off, bro. You know, let me reiterate. You know, lyrics. I think it's unnecessary to us because we feel it. We feel the actions of it. Maybe there's other walks of life. They need the lyrics to help them understand, but that we overstand because it's the actions more than the word.
That is absolutely true. All right, so piggybacking off of that, another question for you, Shelley. Do you, as a Black artist, feel obligated to pay homage to the legacy market? While we, that brief intermission, Sasha kind of touched on that legacy market. So Sasha, if you want to do that again a bit for him to answer that question.
Yes, I was telling everyone about the legacy market and how it was the first informal market for marijuana distribution, and how the legacy market didn't necessarily have the opportunity to be branded in the formal economy because of the prohibition of marijuana. So much of the legacy market relied a lot on the culture for branding and marketing, and it has definitely influenced the way we was branded. So wanted to hear more about how your thoughts about how the culture has influenced the legacy market and helped with promoting weed during a time where weed was criminalized.
I mean, we just always know how to make lemonade, you know, with what's given from a little logo. You see what's on the borders, you know what I'm saying? Like on the hat, you already know what the fuck time it is. You could put out a flyer and just have that logo, and you already know it's a if you know type of situation. If you green, you can't be with the green like you know during that time. And for people that was able to make to make their moves during that time, like that just let you know like they was on one, you know what I'm saying? And damn, like they shouldn't be shut out as well. I know exactly what you're saying. Like I don't know if I can consider myself a part of that market. I think I just felt it trickle down to like, you know, on just a regular basis. Like they'll hem you up for a nickel bag's worth of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like they just want to get you up out of there.
Yeah.
Did I answer it kind of?
Yeah. So, and you kind of answered my next question as well, but with that being said, do you feel that it's important to your audience?
Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like from the one, you know, from our people to anyone who's tuned in, you know, like something that you can feel from a relative standpoint to something that you can feel because it was explained to you eloquently because the nigga done been through it. You know, either way, no matter what walk of life, if you're a fan of mine, I feel like you should be hip on this shit. For real, for real.
Okay. So marijuana justice talks about our community members with marijuana charges as survivors to the war on drugs due to truly surviving this ongoing legal war on our communities. We will, as a community, continue to heal and survive through cannabis and culture. How do you guys feel that culture influences our imagination? And why is this important for Black people's healing and survivors of the war on drugs? So this kind of ties back into, you know, a creative process in a sense.
Yeah. Definitely gonna let Shelley take the lead on answering that.
Nah, man, I answered it mad times. Come on, give me a little twist.
Let me tell you, I think the culture is our way, like I said, of preserving ourselves. And I think when we think about culture and how it has always influenced our imagination and it helps us dream up possibilities of our future. And I think that's why the culture and conversations about culture are some of my favorite conversations to have. And that also goes to with like weed. I think we have not known a weed market without criminalization. We have not known weed without Black people being policed, Black people being hurt, Black people being oppressed, you know? And I think now having these conversations, though, the way that we do, we can shed light in a beautiful way that we haven't necessarily seen or been able to before. And I love, even when we're thinking about songs and music in the past, a lot of the songs that touch on weed have been about policing Black people, the policing that Black people have experienced. And I would just love to see, as a culture, as we're moving forward and as we're healing from the war on drugs, I would love to see the ways we dream up our sounds to be futuristic, to be imaginative, and to think and dream up how we will exist and live beyond the war on drugs. And I'm looking forward to like the songs and the art that comes from that.
Absolutely. All right, so John, I did say you kind of answered these questions in different ways throughout this conversation, so I'll just move on, unless you got something to add. Okay. All right. How can your work and connection to the culture help Black imagination about our futures beyond the war on drugs? So now we're looking forward now.
I mean, by being businessmen. Now that the opportunity is there, make sure that these folks make right on these promises that are quite vague. If I'm gonna be honest, like what's really up, let me know. Like, don't just talk it in because that was the thing at first. Now it's signed over, and it's like, oh, okay, well, me and my people can work out move, so I don't need to work with you and your people. All right, bet. You know what I'm saying? As long as y'all make right by that, the next step is being just as savvy on the business end as maybe others have done when it wasn't even a possibility to make it legally. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just gotta roll with this. This is an opportunity for us to generate new business, and new business means new businesses, and it's a chance to build new businessmen out of anyone who want to get some money.
Best revenge is your paper, right?
Yes.
Sasha, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think exactly what Shelley said. And I also think it's a way to legitimize people who have already been in the business. And, because we talked about that legacy market, and those are people
Right.
who have already been doing this work. So, there is this stigma that comes with people who have been in the informal legacy market, but they are businessmen. And when you think about all the money that our culture really could have, the people in our communities, let's say, really could have had without the war on drugs. So I want to be really mindful to them, that they are business people. What we're doing now is saying, like, they're legitimate, and we're making sure that in our demands that we're giving space and opportunity for them, their businesses to thrive.
Yeah, don't look over. Don't give this to us just to give it back to them. You know what I'm saying? Not making, and I mean, us and them is anyone who, like, when I say us, I mean anyone who's like-minded, who's just on that. Anybody that's them is who feeds into or fuels the oppression of anything that's dealing with another person being able to succeed with the same substance that put the next man behind the bar. Now we need to eat too. Basically, all of this, I understand. All of this is that, we need to eat. We done got the we done got the whooping. Now we need the alcohol and the little, give us our rubbing alcohol. Let us heal our wounds.
Yes.
Love it. Yeah. So Shelley, before we wrap up, can you tell us more about like how we can support what you have going on with cannabis? And you talked about your business earlier. Can you tell us a little more about that and how we can stay tuned in to what's coming?
Well, step by step, as the laws progress, we will dive into that. But as far as Big Baby's Bakery in general, like we have apparel, we have merch, we have events. Like I said, December 18th at the Addicts Theater, Rated R Christmas, Big Baby's Bakery. That's our first thing. We're into fundraisers. We'll be giving out toys for children, things of that nature. We want to implant our brand in the life and the pulse of the 757 as well as beyond. But this is the catalyst. This is where it all starts at. It's only right. you can just tune in and stay tuned. You know, if you go to any of our events and things of that nature, you know, we show love.
No doubt, no doubt. And can you talk about your music too? Like what's going on with your music? What can we
Well, I
expect?
actually have a Christmas song that drops on Monday. I
Ooh.
did it with my man Slim Wave, phenomenal producer. I mean, it's a special one. I feel like it's timeless. One you won't forget. It's called Gifts. Monday, Merry fucking Christmas. You know.
We love it. We love it. No, that's dope. I can't wait to listen and tune in and get into the holiday spirit as I'm smoking my stuff and just getting all into it. I can already feel the vibes. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And I love how you talked about the 757. Like we mentioned before, we're all from the 757. Virginia is such a special place. Even with Richmond, like this culture is expanded throughout the entire state of Virginia. And the work we're doing with marijuana justice is to pour back into the place that we love. So I appreciate you so much for speaking so much about the place that you come from, that we all come from, that we love, and how it has inspired you and the work that you're doing with your music and what you're doing with all things weed. Like this was a really dope conversation. We appreciate having you here. And for everyone that's tuned in, thank you so much for being here for our conference. It's been a really great and informative 3 days of talking about all things weed. So we have our closing session that will start at 4 o'clock. So if you stay tuned, coming on next is our host who you have been, with for the last 3 days, Jewel Jordan, and we're going to hand it all back to her. Thank y'all so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, y'all. Waver.
All. It's a bittersweet moment. It's the end of the conference. I'm so happy that you all are still here with us, and I'm sure you had an amazing time in your sessions. And also, although we weren't able to see each other in person, I really enjoyed being here. The information that has been shared has been truly insightful, and I actually feel armed and ready for 2022. So before we leave each other today, I would love to know some of your highlights. So go into the chat right now, drop what you've learned, something that you didn't know, something that you knew, but somebody said it in a different way. And we want to make sure that you also continue to tag us on social media. This conference has definitely been a labor of love, as it takes a lot of hands to put it all together. So right now is the time where we're going to give out some shout outs, okay? A huge thank you to our coalition members, Rise for Youth, Justice for Virginia, Virginia Student Power Network, and of course the mothership, Marijuana Justice. Our amazing speakers that just poured out so much information, and the conference staff that is making it all happen behind the scenes. Now, all of these sessions were recorded, so they'll be available beginning of 2022. Keep a lookout on your inbox so you can access these recordings. And you know what? This conference has been wonderful, but we always want to make it better. So yesterday I plugged the survey. We're going to plug it again. If you would like, you can go right now and log into a survey and share your feedback about the conference. All you have to do is go to bit.ly/Canna Survey 2021. And Canna Survey 2021 is in all caps. So again, that's bit.ly/Canna Survey 2021. And be sure to follow our social media channels, stay up to date on all things marijuana and the efforts to legalize it right. I am just thrilled, drum roll please, to go ahead and be given the okay to let y'all know, save the date for next year. December 8th through the 10th will be the dates for the second annual Joint Canada Justice Conference. Again, that'll be December 8th through the 10th, 2022. We want you all to be here because we have created a great space to celebrate our wins and strategize on what we still need to work on. So finally, y'all know it took a whole lot to get this done, and it takes a whole lot of work, and a lot of it is free labor, but the support is needed. So your support is crucial to continue this work of bold, unwavering voices for justice. So you can keep funding and help Black futures by supporting our work to continue to organize, base build, and advocate by visiting marijuanajustice.org or via Cash App using the handle, not a $, and then it's Marijuana Justice. Your contribution will make a significant impact, whether it's a $5 donation or a $500 donation. And with that, I think we have a special guest that's going to come on the scene and also give a goodbye.
Here?
Do we have the marijuana mama?
Hey, Jewel.
Hey, Chelsea. You all, Chelsea Higgs-Wise, co-founder of Marijuana Justice.
Hey, girl. And I am just really blown away by these last 3 days. Jewel, I want to just say thank you for bringing us looks. I signed in. I said, okay, it's like we're getting a new host every day, but yet the same hometown loving that we adore all the time. So thank you so much, Jewel Jordan. You have been a phenomenal, truly.
No problem. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Appreciate the time. I'm giving you my roaring 20s, and we're talking about prohibition all weekend, giving that type of kid that look.
Okay, I give it.
You know. Now tell us how important it is to donate, support. If you don't have the money, what are other ways of supporting, if that makes sense?
Sure. So, I really would love to maybe bring on a coalition member with me to talk about this work when we talk about funding Black futures. And that is one of my coalition partners, Kalia. There she is. Hey Kalia.
Hey.
Yeah. So I will go first just to kind of answer this question, and then I'd love Kalia to jump in as well. And I know we're expecting maybe one more coalition member that can also speak to this. But, Jewel mentioned how hard everybody is working and how much it takes to fund this conference. And we just want to remind everyone that it's not just the conference that needs to be funded. These sessions provide so much more to these organizations, to the people that they're serving, as well as to our futures. And so that's why it's really important for everyone to understand that they can give, whether that's with their dollars, their time, sharing this information. This is why we took so much effort to record the information and take notes to make this accessible later and not just a one-time piece. But we want to grow, and we want to make sure that our Black futures are funded. And with that, I will bring, there she is. Here we go. I just really wanted to make sure we had our two advocates for our futures, particularly. And, I really give it up because I remember last summer in 2020, I think it was in a group chat with Kalia and with some young folks, and the term Fund Black Futures really came up. And it's been our going mantra to just understand that this is how we stay here. We are in the future. So again, I'm Marijuana Justice, and you've heard from us a little bit. I'll talk a little bit more at the end, how to make sure you pour into us. But Kalia, I want to give you the opportunity to really talk about why it's important to fund the work at Virginia Student Power Network.
Hey, y'all, and thank you for giving us a platform here in the closing ceremony. I just want to say that last session was awesome. Loved it. And the reasons why it's important to fund, especially youth work and organizing work, is because, well, one thing we know, the revolution is not going to be funded through C3 money, right? So while we need the grant funding, we know they're not going to fund our most radical work. And the way that we can be the most autonomous, the way that we can say things like abolish prisons, abolish the police, is through grassroots funding, is through the people. So all of us have our different ways of getting those dollars, or for y'all to donate to us. For VSPN, you can definitely donate through our Act Blue. So that's bit.ly/donate VSPN. Of course, we're not saying no to grant funding but we are saying that there are many ways to donate, and we truly, truly value the grassroots. And the other thing I just wanted to say is directly donating to youth as well is a great way. Of course, VSPN is here to incubate work, but there are young people that are doing the work every day. They have cash apps, they have needs. And so I think it's really important to give to the young people in your life as well.
Thank you so much for that, Kalia. And Val, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, the Executive Director of Rise for Youth and Coalition member. Go ahead, Val.
Hey, you know what? Thank you so much for inviting me also to this closing ceremony. And you know what? The one thing that every individual can do is you can believe in a young person, you can support organizations that are helping young people, and you can put your money where your mouth is, right? You can fund Black futures, whether you are donating to individual young people, whether you are funding the Virginia Student Power Network, whether you are allowing your dollars to support Rise for Youth. What you need to do is make sure that every young person in Virginia has a bright future, has the ability to dream of their own future, and that they are able to achieve that thing because you have put your money where your mouth is. You have put your heart. You see, all of us want to say, oh, we know that children are the future. If you know this, then make sure that everything you do is reflective of ensuring that every child in Virginia has the opportunity to have a bright future, that they are free of the engagement with the justice system as it relates to marijuana or anything else. There are so many ways that the system is entangling young people. And we ought to be in the business of disentangling them. We ought to be in the business of creating pathways to bright futures. We ought to be in the business of illuminating the way to freedom, right? Because that's what every young person deserves. So this has been an amazing. I hope you have paid attention. I hope you have been here for the entire conference because it's been absolutely amazing. You should feel illuminated. And now you ought to be doing everything that you can to make sure that the future is bright for every young person in Virginia.
That's right. And Val, before you go off, you want to drop any links or anything for people to know? Everyone that's watching this, it is in the comments of this YouTube page to follow all the coalition members and get that information. But just so folks hear it, Valerie.
Sure. Please go to riseforyouth.org and sign up and get all of our updates, get all of our action alerts. Also, follow us on social media. We're Rise for Youth. And no matter where you go, Rise for Youth is what we are. So, you know what? Support young people. Send your young people our way. Send them to the Virginia Student Power Network and make sure that every young person is connected and is a part of the change that they want to see in Virginia.
Thank you so much, Valerie, with Rise for Youth. And one other coalition member that is not here right now is Justice Forward Virginia. We want to just continue to shout them out. They are the public defenders right here in the Commonwealth that do this work completely for free. They are volunteers outside of their day job to make sure that there are legislative policies and efforts and that people are informed of their rights. They've been really critical in the marijuana pieces to look to make sure that we can repeal these laws. These public defenders are face to face with law enforcement, with judges, as well as our loved ones all the time. And so it's important to make these connections with folks that are doing this work. And we want to really thank them and encourage all of you to also follow them. They have an incredible fundraiser right now where they're doing some merchandise that you can buy. So tune in to Justice Forward and you can follow them at Justice FWDVA on all the social media and tap in below. So I just really quickly before we close out, I just want to give one more chance for Kalia or Valerie to say any last words. It's been a real pleasure to host this with you all. We've been planning this for months. It's taken so much to get this out, but we really understood that to change the narrative, to change our futures, that we have to really bring justice and liberation into the conversation of cannabis. And that means from all aspects of it. And we were able to do that in 16 sessions and 2 keynotes. And that still wasn't enough, but we're really getting there and working. So any last words with Valerie or Kalia?
The one thing I will say is Stand up for youth no longer being criminalized as it relates to marijuana. We can't allow our youth to be an afterthought. We have a whole piece of legislation that has legalized marijuana in Virginia that's creating a whole new framework for financial or economic development in Virginia. And at the same time, it's creating a framework to literally criminalize kids, to criminalize young people under the age of 21. Stand up for these young people. Stand up for Black and brown young people. And I say Black and brown because they bear the brunt disproportionately in every arena as it relates to justice system involvement. Stand up for our young people. Their lives matter. We need to declare definitively that their lives matter and that we will not allow for a waged war once again as it relates to drugs, and this time on youth. We will not allow it. So stand strong with us and let's make this change.
And I just want to say thank you on behalf of ESPN and our members for including us not only in the coalition, we're the newest member, but also in this wonderful conference. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure that lots of young people will watch these recordings and learn quite a bit. So looking forward to next year. And honestly, for folks that are participating, just knowing that the work is not done. It'll be really easy to continue to legalize it wrong with this new situation in our legislature, but it'll be on us to continue to center justice and center the voices of the most impacted. And we've learned so much here about how we can do that and the ways to do it. So let's just keep rolling up our sleeves together, and we'll see y'all at the GA and in the streets.
Perfect. And I will just say a big thank you for Marijuana Justice. This has been our brainchild with this Canna Justice space with all of our partners, and we're just really looking forward to growing. I also really just want to ask everybody to please follow us, share our information, to be very direct. There are some platforms that are shadow banning our content because they're saying it's about drugs, and we're also talking about anti-police enforcement. And so many of the ways that folks would get their information on social media are blocked from justice narratives. So we really depend on our supporters to share and talk and comment as you all feel called to, and just continue to thank us that way. And of course, you can always donate at marijuanajustice.org. We have a Cash App, Marijuana Justice, and we're really always looking for supporters and volunteers to come on in. Since we've started this Canna Justice movement, we're really looking for those dates that Jewel dropped in, December 8th through the 10th. Save the date next year. Joint Canna Justice is coming back at you. So again, my name is Chelsea Higgs-Wise. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Marijuana Justice, and I'm just so proud of this event, and thank you all for being here with us.
And thank you, Jewel. I just want to, Jewel, you really rocked it. Thank you for being such an amazing host.
Yo, y'all are so welcome. You know how nervous I was. And Chelsea's like, if you don't get on that mic and do what you do.
You're a queen. You're a queen, and we know it.
I love being up here with all you all. I really do. I'm going to go ahead and say real quick, Brown, Virginia has an MLK Day coming up, and every last person up here is also invited. And we've worked with Rise for Youth for a couple of years, and we look forward to doing it again. So awesome. Thank you all so much for taking your time. Thank you so much for your passion. And this isn't easy work. Folks come at y'all left and right. I know it. I see it. And you keep going. And so we thank you because you're doing it and it's impacting lives. So thank you all so much. And thank you all for attending, for allowing me to be your host for the past 3 days. It has been an absolute honor to spend this time learning and growing with you. So on behalf of myself, Jewel Jordan with Brown, Virginia, and all of those that made this conference possible, enjoy your weekend, the upcoming holidays, spend time with family, friends, and stay safe and healthy. This has been the first Joint Canna Justice Convention. Thank you.